What is going on, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? Hyper Chaotic here with the K double R. And if any of yous out there are aware of the whole Jaiden Animation Rule 34 situation going on, um, recently Jaiden Animations has responded to the situation, and I'm actually going to go over it with all of you. But the main point of this video that I'm making it is I actually want to go over why Rule 34 art of Jaiden Animation might be a thing, why it's not really going to go anywhere, and why all these people crying about it, saying, all these people making it as sad. You're hurting Jaiden Animations with this. She didn't consent to this, which that one just is absolutely funny to me, and I'll go over why in a sec. Or how the Rule 34 artists are wasting their potential on this. I used to first think that when I started checking out Rule 34, but I'll give my opinion more about that in a sec. But before I do, first of all, for those of you checking me out for the first time, welcome to the channel. And for those of you who may not understand the situation, what is going on? Who the hell is Jaiden Animations? And what the fuck is Rule 34? First of all, Jaiden Animations is an animation YouTuber, an animator YouTuber. She does her own little animations with this simplistic but cute and fun style, and talks about her past experiences, memories, or even just simple thoughts she has going on in her mind, and decides to make a full animated video on it. And I've seen some of her videos before. I'm not a personal fan of her or subscriber, but I have seen her videos, and I quite like them, even for the very simplistic style that they are. They have so much detail, so much character to it. She puts a lot of passion into her animations and a lot of her personality into it as well. And I want you guys to keep that in mind because that's something I'm going to be bringing up a lot in this video. Um, Next is what the fuck is Rule 34? And what's the big deal about Rule 34 in specifically Jaiden Animations when it comes to Rule 34? For starters, I know some people might think this because apparently this is something people actually used to think about Rule 34. First of all, it's not an actual rule in the sense of like people have to obey it or anything. That's just like a nickname or something. I don't remember why they call it Rule 34, but it's just like a nickname. It's not an actual rule or anything. But as the rule implies, Rule 34 of the internet. If it exists, there's porn of it. Now, this specifically pertains to any form of fictional media, well, typically, particularly fictional media, but, well, we'll get into that in a sec. This can pertain to any movie, cartoon, animation, TV show, book, etc., you can think of. Which is usually most likely just typically drawings, animations, GIFs, animated videos of characters of a specific media. Usually, almost always games and animations nowadays, because it's easier to copy a style, redo it in a style, or take assets from like a game and redo them in a certain way for certain videos. Uh, Thanks to technology nowadays, and make some borderline porn of said characters because they're just attracted to it, and that's what they're into. Porn parodies. Sometimes cheaply made, sometimes very well done porn parodies. In the sense of copying the art style and making it look like something that would have been in the show if it was a smut film for adults and not a show for kids. My Little Pony comes to mind. Damn, you clappers go fucking crazy on those animations. And I probably will be getting a lot of questions. Whoa, gee, Chaotic, you sure seem to know a lot about Rule 34. Well, first of all, motherfucker, relax that tone. Watch the way you're talking to me in my comment section. Second, listen. We do not kink shame here or talk shit to people about what they do in their personal quarters, okay? As long as it's not something that's genuinely sick and doesn't contain actual something that doesn't actually require somebody's consent, because it doesn't require an actual fucking person in the situation. There's really no issue with Rule 34, okay? How do I know stuff about Rule 34? Because I ain't gonna lie, I have personally dabbled in the Rule 34 myself.
You what?
Go ahead and say it.
You have sullied your hands with filthy parchments of heresy, guardsmen.
Detestable mutants fill your heads with such vile obscenity.
How do you plead?
What? No.
Too late, heretic.
You done? You done? Okay. Anyway, so as somebody who does dabble in the Rule 34s myself, I will be giving my personal opinion. Before anybody asks, no, I haven't personally seeked out specifically the Jaiden Animations Rule 34. Have I seen it? Yes. Have I personally seeked it out myself? No. I'll explain why I've stumbled onto it and how I stumbled onto it in a sec. But first, I'm actually going to be going over Jaiden's response first. Because this has been known for a while, and a lot of people have been talking about it, and talking a lot of shit down to the people who are making the art, requesting the art, and viewing the arts. We're going to go over that in a sec, but first we're going to go over her response. We're going to start off with the response that she made in an interview with, what was his name? The guy from Smosh. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I just can't remember his name. I haven't really seen anything for Smosh, or specifically this guy in a sec. I'll put his name up on screen. Oof, more editing for me, wonderful. But, that's what I get for not being prepared. So that's on me. Anthony something, but... Okay, since I remember at least his first name, you guys know what I'm talking about, but... She went on his show, his little podcast, did an interview with him, and he actually asked a question about the Rule 34, because it's been quite a spicy hot topic for a while up on YouTube and for commentators. She actually also gave excuse me, I had to let some gas out. After that, she actually did give a written response, or I guess typed out technically, and actually went into further detail on the matter. And I'm actually going to get into that more in a sec. But first, I'm going to show you that clip from the interview she had with Anthony. So here's the clip, and then I'm going to get into her typed out response.
There's been rampant lewd and X-rated art created based on your character.
Yeah, I would agree.
And it is so rampant that there are videos out there of people saying, this is too much, this needs to stop. Have you ever talked about any of this?
No, I haven't. And people have thought that I have. There's rumors. People say she's said this or she said this, and it's like, you're all wrong. I haven't said anything, and you're crazy to think that I would.
Because if you bring it up, then it draws more attention to it.
There's the people who know about it and are telling me to say something about it.
Yeah.
There's the people who are making it, who are aware of it. And then there's the general audience who doesn't know. So why would I talk about it and just make them aware of it? People are like, think that I have a choice on hey, let's take it all down. Right. It's like, that's not how it works. Would I encourage it? No. Do I want it? No. Do I have a choice? No. I've talked to managers and people who are connected to Google, and I've can we do something? And they're like, let me check. And they'll come back to me and be like, nope. I wish that children and my family members and all my friends can't find it immediately. Mm-hmm. I just wish that it wasn't so easily accessible. And the people who are making the videos, really, they make me a little bit more upset because they're pretending to take the moral high ground on this is horrible. Right. When they're the ones who are really profiting and benefiting. True. And you can't pretend to be the good person in this scenario. To put it lightly, I don't really appreciate it.
Okay, now that we've dealt with that, let's get into her deeper response. And apologies for my pauses, I'm smoking a cigarette. It helps me focus when I, I'll get into that another time. Anyways, here's the tweet from Jaiden Animations. Apologies for the simulate response. I do not open Open Bird app, Open Bird app anymore. I hope everyone can respect my view on this stuff. Since I already know, first of all, Jaiden, absolutely respect your response and apologies for making this video. I just feel like this needs to be said. I originally wasn't going to do a video on the matter, but I just feel like this needs to be said because, like you said, there are a lot of motherfuckers talking out of their ass, acting like they're on the moral high ground when they're just probably just trying to get clout on the situation. My main problem with Rule 34 is that it's too accessible to minors. Pause real quick. I'm going to get to this in a deeper discussion in a sec real quick, but just a quick question to people out there. I've been hearing this a lot. Why does Rule 34 keep getting picked on specifically for being so accessible to minors when all internet pornography has been accessible to minors since people started installing internet in their homes? Pornhub, PornTube, RedTube, X-Hamsters, XNXX comes to mind. Anyways, on with the response. Which I'm actively trying to fix. I'm not exactly sure how you can do anything about that other than advocating for the website to have better login security. Which again, why are you only particularly going after Rule 34 artists and websites when there are plenty of more popular, more viewable... We'll get into that deeper in a sec, like I said. But I am curious exactly how she can really do anything about it. I mean, what a website does with their platform is their choice. Yes, I don't technically approve of Rule 34 drawn of the Jaiden animation character. And keep that in mind. The character of her. That is not her. She is not an actual cartoon of the character, but it's not something I am actively upset by, which a lot of people have been claiming in their videos. Oh, imagine how Jaiden feels. You're probably upsetting her. You're hurting her.
Just think of your favorite, fictional character, book, movie, whatever, and then type Rule 34 after it, and there's bound to be thousands of pages of about it. There's basically no escaping this singular rule on the internet. It's basically bound to happen to pretty much anything. However, usually it's applied to fictional characters and not real people. So you can see, you kind of enter a bit of a gray area when you start to make, of real life people who don't consent to it. Jaiden Animations, believe it or not, has never consented to people drawing her animated character petting a creeper. And even within just Jaiden's community itself, this has caused a huge split, because one side people think that this should be okay, that this is moral, and that this is, oh, it's just drawings. And then on the other side people are like, no, this isn't just drawings. This is affecting Jaiden directly. This is, ruining her well-being. You should, not do this because she doesn't consent to it. And me making this video isn't necessarily helping the situation either, because at the end of the day, all exposure is good exposure, because I know at least 10 of you guys, right after you heard Jaiden Animations Rule 34, you're already on page 10 of the subreddit, fucking petting yourself to death, halfway done to emptying your toothpaste, and you're like, oh wait, this is actually pretty fucking great. No, fuck you, you fucking creep. There is like an endless amount of, other variations of that you could be petting off to, but out of all of the things, you decide to petting off to Jaiden Animations petting a Minecraft creeper. Bro, you're fucking sad. You're pathetic.
Meanwhile, here she's actively saying this is not something she's very upset by or really lets it bug her. For this, people have been talking about this for almost 8 months now, and she pretty much has been going on with business as normal, trying to ignore it. Meanwhile, people keep talking about it, and there are a few assholes here and there just because they know she doesn't like it. Will go on her Twitter and be like, oh, congratulations, Jaiden, you got so-and-so results on Rule 34. Like, you guys are some trifling assholes for that. Leave her the fuck alone. I understand it will exist, and I have moved on. And it exists because people have the freedom of art expression. Not to mention, in the legal sense, all this fan art lands under parody. So all these people crying, but you don't have her consent, but you don't have her consent. They don't need consent. This isn't a copyrighted character. And even then, with copyrighted character, people don't need consent to make fan art of copyrighted character. There is a company. Oh, sorry, I don't know if people heard that. I accidentally hit the microphone, but there's a company out there that actually constantly goes after people just for even making fan creations or arts of their characters. Nintendo. And people have been giving Nintendo a lot of shit for just going after people for making fan-made games and fan art.
People in the comments section really appreciated being able to see both sides of the story. Getting the perspective of a not safe for work artist was something that none of the commentary channels talking about Jaiden Animations art had done yet.
Jaiden Animations doesn't deserve this. Now, there is a serious problem.
I feel so bad for Jaiden Animations. Unironically, it's a travesty that she unfortunately has to deal with all this stuff.
Most commentary channels just came forward with the same statement over and over again. Ew, yucky, Jaiden Animations Rule 34 is terrible. It needs to stop. I'm pro censorship. I hate it. Stop it. And
so who is Jaiden Animations to be saying, you have to get consent from me to do a parody of my character or draw in my art style, which that's not like, she doesn't even own the art style, nor is she the only YouTube animator who uses that simplistic art style. And even though there are different variations of that art style that many animators on this channel use. And even then, the first animator who was using that art style before Jaiden Animations was a guy called Dominic. So if anybody was to own that animation art style, it's him, not her. And even then, none of them own an animation art style. Let's get that straight. She knows she doesn't own an art style. She can't tell people not to make a parody of her character because it's a parody. They have the freedom to do what they want in a parody. So she accepts that people have the freedom to do that it exists, and she's moved on. And she would appreciate it. Hold on, let me move on to the next image. She would appreciate it if people would stick to the main problem that is accessible to minors. And again, that is an understandable concern. I just don't understand why Rule 34 specifically is getting picked on for being so accessible to minors when all of pornography is accessible to minors. None of it should be at all, let alone easily accessible. But I just don't understand why Rule 34 specifically is getting picked on, other than people say, but it's on Reddit and Twitter. Well, people keep it to their specific forums and pages. And they'll ask if you're of age, or the website will know by how old you are. But we all know kids will sometimes lie about their age when they sign up on the internet. I lied about my age when I first made my own accounts on the internet. My very first account, I literally said I was 14 instead of 13. And then my second account, I said I was a 20-year-old adult. Just so I could look at NSFW stuff because, well, actually, I didn't even need to. I just wanted a reason to have an account on their websites. I didn't need to because they were already easily accessible. And these weren't even Rule 34 sites. This was like regular Pornhub. That shit's so easily accessible. I had an account at fucking 14 years old when I shouldn't have even been there. So I don't understand why Rule 34 is getting picked on. That's an understandable concern, but Rule 34 shouldn't be the only focus. All porn being accessible to minors should be considered an issue, not just Rule 34. Just again, I'm just saying I agree with her. I just don't know why Rule 34 is constantly getting called out by everybody and their mama. And she says what she's actively trying to fix. I'm not sure how she can do that other than advocating for sites to have better age verification. The best they can do is, I feel like the best case scenario for age verifications is if websites started making where you had to make an account and submit your ID, which not everybody's going to be okay with the website having their ID or just want to even make an account. And even then, that's a whole system they would have to set up. But if they were to do that, that actually wouldn't be too bad of an idea and would be a great way to keep minors out. You can sign up, just submit an ID, and that's it. Not like pay for a subscription or anything if they still want it to be a free website and make money off of ad revenue. Because stuff like the Hub, that's their main bread and butter, basically being like the YouTube of NSFW content, of porn. Thus the name Pornhub. It's the hub of porn. That's their bread and butter. But if we were talking about to keep minors out, that actually be a great system. Make it so that these websites will require you to sign up, submit an ID. If they still want to be like, it's free for you to watch and view and sign up, but we will have the option for a premium account, premium subscription. But just so, kids aren't coming onto the site, you have to make an account and you have to submit your ID. You know what? And I, for one, who's an adult, I think I would be fine with that. I would be fine with that. But we know we're not going to do that because that just means so many more views for them and much more money. They probably don't care if they're 12-year-olds or not. They're wrong for that, but I mean, parenting children is not up to them. They should have better age verification, but that's usually up to the parents. Yes, I don't technically approve of Rule 34 drawing with the Jaiden animation character, but... Oh, shit, is that the rest? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading over it again. But still, I would appreciate my followers being concerned over my actual well-being, which some people claim they are, but like she said, she doesn't care about that. But this isn't something you need to defend me from. I'm not saying I condone Rule 34, but I also don't condone relentlessly harassing Rule 34 artists, which is essentially what a lot of these people making these videos talking down on them are doing. That's all you're doing. Especially when you're talking about like, this is a complete waste of your potential. Well, what do you want them to do with it, motherfucker? Do you want them to go work on a big animation a project? You know what? I would love that too. I've seen a lot of what these Rule 34 artists have created. Because I dabbled in the Rule 34 before. And I've even seen some of their content that's not even NSFW content. That's just completely normal, regular, or even cute, adorable content. That's not sexual at all. And I'm always thinking, man, I would love to see these guys get on an animation done by Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or a big corporation like Disney. But they don't want to hire them because they either don't have the background or because they've done this for their own personal viewing. So maybe they don't want to hire them. So how else are they going to make their money or build up a reputation other than taking submissions? That's how a lot of artists are getting started nowadays. They take submissions and they do art for people on like Patreon or Fiverr. And yes, some of that includes NSFW artists, Rule 34 artists. This is how they get started. This is how they're making money. So if anything, they're not wasting their potential. They're getting it started. They're getting it rolling because these companies don't want to hire them regardless. I've seen half of the shit they make. Dude, it would be fucking awesome to see what they could create with a bigger budget, with a team behind them, with an actual project in hand. They may not even be porn related. Maybe completely a regular show. I would be down for that shit. But nobody wants to hire them. Nobody wants to give them a start. So they got to start somewhere. So they put their skills and talents into something that's going to get people asking and demanding so they can supply. Y'all need to leave these Rule 34 artists alone. You don't like it, fine. Y'all are the motherfuckers who keep looking for it, who keep announcing it and bringing attention and bringing light to that stuff. And I know me probably doing a video on this, it doesn't help either, like how she said in that clip. And I do apologize for adding a little bit of fuel to the fire, Jaiden Animations, if you were to ever see this. But I just feel like this, what I have to say really just needs to be mentioned. Because I 100% agree with you. These guys are just harassing the Rule 34 artists. You're sick, you're wasting your time, you didn't ask for consent. They don't need a cent. She's not a copyrighted character. And this is parody. There's parody law protecting content specifically from people being sued by bigger people, corporations, or those with a lot of money. But I guess some of you want that to be a thing. And they complain when it happens to you on a copyright strike on your channel using 5 seconds of a fucking song. This is something that needs to defend me. I'm not saying I condone Rule 34, but I also don't appreciate you harassing artists. Please stop attacking people on my behalf. So let's make this very clear. So all you people going into these subreddits, to the Twitters, talking shit to these people, leave them the fuck alone. Leave it be. And all the people saying, oh, well, they need to keep it to themselves. Why do you think they have their own little subgroups? Why do you think they stick to Rule 34? Why the fuck do you think they keep to their own little Twitter forums with their own followers? But y'all want to go digging in their business? Now, I know some people may have stumbled onto it by accident because they just Googled Jaiden Animations trying to understand who she is. Maybe look up a new video, but you Googled her instead of going to YouTube. Or you're an active Rule 34 viewer. But for those of you who don't know, when it comes to the Rule 34 sites, sometimes they'll have these ads, and they're of games. They're fake video games. They're not actual, or some of them are, but they're not actually as they claim to be. Or some of them are just scams, and you probably shouldn't click on them. But sometimes they'll feature specific characters from specific properties. Usually what those are GIFs or animations done by an actual artist that they decided to yoink and make an ad out of it so they can get clicks, get people to sign up for a game, or just get their information. Or probably put some like ransomware or malware or something on their computer. So for those of you who've ever seen those ads on sites like those, they're fake. Don't click on them. And basically where those animations come from, they come from the original artists and those people who made the ad. They'll yoink it without permission. So that's actually how I stumbled onto it. I viewed Rule 34, the regular stuff I like to look at, not the Jaiden Animation stuff. But then I saw this ad at the corner of my eye one time, and it was one of the Jaiden Animation Rule 34 GIFs used in this ad. And apologies to Jaiden Animations. Again, I know me talking about it doesn't help. It's fuel to the fire. Somebody might not know about this. I literally just explained what it is, but it is what it is. It's out there. As long as people stop talking about it, once that's it. People are gonna find out in their own ways. But if they keep it to themselves, then whatever. What can you do? There's nothing you can do about it. People have the freedom to do what they want with art expression. And again, this is covered under protections with parody laws. Please stop attacking those on my behalf. And for the artists, I would like you to uphold respect and boundaries and try to keep this within your own communities. Understandable, and as I just said, a lot of them are doing that, just that. They're keeping it in their own Twitter forums, their own subreddits. The issue is these motherfuckers making videos on it keep looking for it and talking about it, or keep looking for it just to talk shit to them. And again, I know it shows up in search results sometimes when it comes to Google. And hey, you can't do nothing about it when it comes to the algorithm and what it yoinks off of the internet. That sucks, I know, but I guess put age restrictions, content filters on your browser in Google. I don't know, because everybody's personal algorithm is going to be different with what it decides to give you as a result. If it happens to be one of those, mainly because it's a very popular search that people keep clicking on, then hey, it's going to promote popular searches that get clicks. That's just algorithms. That's just website platforms for you. All I can say is just put content filters on that. Hey, that sucks. There's nothing we can do about that. But other than that, for the most part, that's exactly what these artists are doing. They've been keeping it to themselves, but you do got some of these assholes who think it'd be funny to post it probably on her tweet forums, which is probably partially why she hasn't been using the Bird app for a while. And that's understandable. There are people probably harassing her about this, and y'all are some motherfuckers. And never mind the people who will ship her with other real people. Now, I've got into through a fan fiction phase. I've been through the whole shipping thing, and I understand it when it comes to fictional character. However, even being somebody who's been through the shipping phase, I myself never understood it when it came to real people. Like, these are real people. You're just being a fucking creep or a weirdo. If they're not into that person, they're not into that person. Let alone the people who do actual art of said real person. People will be like, well, this is a scientific Jaiden Animations. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's just a character of her, an avatar that represents a bit of her personality. That is not her. We're not talking about a deep fake here. We're not talking about somebody trying to, like, hacking into her webcam or something, taking a picture of her when she's dressing and trying to put it out as revenge porn or anything. We're just talking about an animated drawing of an animated character avatar that represents her. No real consent required when it comes to parodies. There's nothing completely. It's I would say it's more so morally gray area, but this isn't content of her. Okay, it's a parody of her character. But even then, when it comes to shipping, that's even weirder terms. And at the same time, this could kind of apply because, again, these are characters and it's just parody. But in this situation, people definitely want to be like, well, I would totally want to see them together. Well, they're not interested, and some people like the odd ones out who people keep shipping with Jaiden Animations has a girlfriend. He would prefer you guys just stop doing that shit. Okay? Like, Rule 34 art of a character is one thing. When people go and make the art of an actual person, the person themselves, who they actually look like, that's when you're truly crossing some boundaries. And the people who ship people in real life, you're all just some fucking weirdos. Like, next level fucking weirdos. Overall, I just want it to be ignored and everyone to move on, just as I have. I hope everyone can respect that. And honestly, that's what everybody should have done in the first place. That's what she had been doing in the first place till she ended up on this interview and decided to address it further on her Twitter. She's just been ignoring it. It's out there. She just ignores it, doesn't let it bother her, and moves on with her day. She couldn't do anything about it, even if she wanted to. Y'all motherfuckers out there, leave it alone. And all of that I said in between, that's what I really, really needed to say. Because y'all need to get that through your thick skulls. There's nothing you can do about it. People have their freedoms with art expressions. This is not actual art of her, a deep fake or anything. This is of a character of her. And that's protected under parody laws. So copyright stuff wouldn't even work. And if anybody has ever looked at Nintendo and how they've been with fan games and fan art, we wouldn't want that to happen at all. We wouldn't want people to have that extension of freedom to the point where they can fucking hinder the freedom of others, whether you like it or not. So just leave it alone. Now, that's all about. We went over her response. We just went over her response. We just went over, how we're not going to be able to do anything about it. This Rule 34 is going to be here to stay, and why these people essentially have the freedom to do what they can do. Let me quickly cover why people might be into Rule 34 or doing Rule 34 of Jaiden Animations characters. Now, if you want to understand why Rule 34 is a thing, or just why there's so much Rule 34 of any specific content whatsoever, there's actually a specific video out there that does cover that. However, I gotta mention this because the YouTuber who made this typically primarily covers Pokemon content of his channel, and because of that, in this video he specifically covers Pokemon Rule 34, but even though he's specifically covering Pokemon Rule 34, he does go deeper into Rule 34 in of itself, in general, in itself of a whole, and why the Rule 34 is a thing, what goes on in the psychology of people who might be into or make Rule 34, and why there may be so much of it in Pokemon specifically, since he specifically covers Pokemon. And a lot of it would actually be able to explain why a lot of people may be into or do Rule 34 of Jaiden Animations. And as somebody who's into Rule 34 myself, and has dabbled a little bit into Pokemon stuff, oh my. Oh my, oh my, oh my. I can say, from my personal experience at least, I think I could definitely confirm a lot of what he said. So, and it's by the YouTuber name of Lockstin and Gnoggin. So I'll leave a link in the description down below for that video so you can check it out and actually understand a little bit more of Rule 34 and why it's a thing, and why people are so into it, and why it's so popular. And also, stop giving Rule 34 so much shit for being so accessible to children. Like, stop specifically picking on Rule 34 for that, when all of pornography should be given shit for being so accessible to children. All of it. All of it's to blame. Not just Rule 34. Now, let's quickly go over why Jaiden Animation Rule 34 might start to become popular real quick, because my mouth is dry and I need to hydrate. I need to end this video. So, because of her personality and her bubbliness and whatnot, this girl has over almost 10 million, I think over 10 million subscribers by now. She's a very popular animator, YouTuber. And a lot of people are attracted to her personality because of that. And I mean just in the regular sense of, like, they enjoy her, they enjoy watching her, they enjoy listening to her, and watching the caricature of her personality, of a part of her personality. And there are the people out there who, for those who are into Rule 34, who have been more attracted to her personality, more in just in the sense of, like, oh, she's entertaining, but more so like, you know, that bubbly personality type might turn some people on. And I can honestly see that. I ain't gonna lie, there's some certain women I've been into because of their bubbly personality. I find that sexy in some women. Some people might be attracted to that. And when it comes to animation, we can get into a deep dive of why people find just animation sexy in general, but we would be here all day. Let alone specifically an animated caricature of somebody's personality or avatar. So because of people into that, this is the closest representation of her. Plus, they will be able to copy said art style and be able to make porn parody of it. So this would be the closest of them fulfilling a certain fantasy featuring said person without actually doing art of said person and being within. And this is why I say I think it's more so a moral gray area, because legally, you know, it's okay, but morally it's a complicated boundary, because this isn't art of her. This is art of a character, and this is parody. This is art parody of somebody's character. So they have the freedom to do so, but it's kind of that moral gray area, because even though it's a caricature, it is a caricature of somebody's personality of a person that represents that person. That essentially the reason why they're into that caricature is because they're into a portion of that person's personality that is represented into that character. So they do essentially fantasize about her in a sense. So, but even then, it's still just technically a caricature. And even then, her face is out there. Technically, people wanted to, and they were that fucked up, weird, and perverts and weirdos, and they probably already have. I'm just not going to look for it. They would have just done deep fakes. But they don't. They do Rule 34 artists of her caricature. Because that's where most of her personality is shown and comes out. And that's what they get turned on by. So that's why they're so attracted to her caricature, to her avatar. And due to it being a caricature and an avatar, but at the same time still being a representation of her, that's what makes it such a moral gray area. That's why it isn't black and white. It's morally gray. In a certain sense, it's fucked up, but it isn't completely wrong, because they're not doing content of her. It's a caricature. It's an avatar of her. It's a representation of her. It's not her. She's representation. They're not actually doing art of her. They're not doing deepfakes of her. They're doing parodies of an art of a representation of her. Even though it's fucked up, it's weird, it's not completely wrong, and it's not illegal. So it's just morally gray. It's not black and white. It's gray. It's just complicated. So the best we can do, and I'm never going to bring this up again because that's what I had to say. I said what I had to say. You can agree or disagree, but drop it, leave it the fuck alone, and stop bugging her about it. And leave these fucking Rule 34 artists and viewers the fuck alone. As long as they're keeping it in their communities, as long as they're not harassing her about it, which y'all are some trifling motherfuckers for doing that shit, leave them the fuck alone. Leave them alone and stop picking on Rule 34 for this shit. Okay? And again, the whole thing about it being accessible to minors, that's an understandable concern. That is an understandable concern. But if the hub was easily accessible for me since I was 12, why is Rule 34 specifically getting picked on and not other pornography in general? And if they ever were to take into consideration a system, I think the best case scenario that wouldn't piss off their current viewers, but would actually get rid of minors on the site, would be the identity verification, but still allowing it to be free. Just make your accounts, submit an ID, and if you're not of legal age, you ain't coming on. Simple as that. You don't have to pay if you don't want a premium subscription. That would be a best case scenario for the sites and for the viewers who don't probably want to pay and don't care about letting an ad run. With that said, that's what I had to say. I won't bring it up anymore. I will respect your wishes. And even though I myself technically have the freedom to express and talk about it as I want to, and, well, just give me a YouTube game, but I already said what I had to say. I don't need to talk about it anymore. And I just feel like people really need to hear this shit and get this through their thick skulls. But you know what? Like I said, if you agree or disagree, whatever. We'll agree to disagree. But drop it. Leave it the fuck alone. Leave the Rule 34 artists and viewers alone, and leave her alone about it. Go on about your days. Leave it alone. Forget that it exists. And yes, I know the algorithm, Google. There's nothing you can do about that. Just do content filters on your own personal algorithms. There's nothing you can do about the people's personal algorithms, let alone the algorithm as a whole in of itself. It is what it is. And I know a lot of people hate that expression. I myself can't stand it. I can't stand it sometimes. But it is what it is. And we can't change it. We can't have the freedom to do certain stuff if it's going to impede on the freedom of others. So recently, we've been giving anti-vaxxers shit for this, and other YouTubers who will, talk shit about somebody's monetization, or corporations that will sue people over family creations. Why do you all of a sudden want Jaiden Animation to have that freedom? And clearly she's not okay with that, because she knows, especially as a creator herself, and who's dabbled in Pokemon, and again, that's owned by Nintendo, so ooh. I mean, not saying they're gonna try anything against Jaiden Animations anytime soon. Hopefully they don't ever. But just, we don't want people with that type of freedom. With that all said, I'm hyper chaotic. I'm out. This was quite a winded one for me. I didn't learn how to make my videos shorter, but you know what? I think this one was going to be long regardless. I had a lot to say. Hopefully you guys kind of enjoyed the gameplay in the background. It was originally going to be COD Mobile, but used to what I had. Keep having issues with these damn games. Link down below for that COD Mobile gameplay. This gameplay will be coming soon as its own gameplay. Chaotic out.